Our final question is just kind of a wrap up, and some of it you've already said. Feel free to add or to repeat those, to just kind of underline it and put a bold over it. But the last question is, if you could pass along one or two thoughts to an organization that might be considering developing a land acknowledgement, what would that advice or counsel be?
I guess the underlying piece for me and any of the acknowledgements is that it's lasting. Obviously, you don't want it to, be a fad or come and go. It's something that is lasting and it's genuine. It expresses the gratitude that it deserves and the appropriate acknowledgement that is necessary. So, and it doesn't need to be real long or overly complicated or anything like that. It needs to express the correct gratitude or the appropriate gratitude and the correct acknowledgement and be lasting.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Kevin. I was going to say it's about progress, not perfection. It's about having something that's genuine and something that is thoughtful and something that's showing that you're honoring and you're appreciating and recognition, all of those words. And it doesn't need to be 5 years from now when the perfect words after 8 subcommittees have talked it through. So do it. If you haven't done it by now, take a look. There's a million on websites here in Sitka, and talk to people. And just don't worry about getting the perfect words. Just worry about coming from the heart and saying something that says, yes, this is Tlingit Ani. We recognize that. We recognize the Tlingit people have been here for at least 10,000 years. Tlingit people have been here when, Lux is the name for a sacred volcano over here. It's now called Mount Edgecombe. Sailor came through and it looked like a hill in England, so we called it Mount Edgecombe. But Lux, and it means blinking or flashing. Tlingit people were here so long ago, it was that there was still blinking or flashing in the volcano. That's a long time. And so it's that's type of reverence. Like, we honor people who have been here in this rainforest for a long time. So yeah, don't worry about the perfect words. Just be thoughtful, have some discussion, do the process justice, but don't be, I guess, paralyzed by getting it just right. It's not about just right. In fact, now people don't say it word for word. They say the intent. Like, it's not reading a script or doing something that is, there's a great, oh gosh, what was it called? There's these 2 academics and they have a podcast called All My Relations. And one of them did a podcast, Courtney knows, and it was called Beyond Land Acknowledgements. And it had something like, if it's just this rote thing that people are doing, what it sounds like to people in the audience is like, passengers, please, safety instructions before getting on a flight. It's not really meaningful. It's like something you do because it's on the checklist. You don't want something you do that's on the checklist. You want something that, give some words and some guidance, but have it be more a focus on, no, not the perfect words, but the good intention and doing something that's honoring. And you're not gonna mess it up tragically. You don't need, a million people to check in and say, you got it just right. With this group right here, Paul, every group has slightly different land acknowledgements, and they're all good because they're all from the heart. So there's no such thing as like the right words or the perfect words. So that would be my big thing. If you haven't done it, do it this year and give it some thought, give it some discussion, do it justice, but don't wait for the perfect thing. Just do it.
Excellent. Thanks, Doug.
I agree with Doug. I know from my own experience of waiting for the process to go through the process, land acknowledgements can happen anytime. When a meeting starts, you can say, present, Blossom Teal-Olsen, I'm on Tlingit Ani, thankful to be here on Tlingit Ani. That I didn't need to go through a committee. I didn't need to, you know, go through the process. But you know, it again, the sincerity has to be there. Even if it's not there, I'm happy that you know, different organizations you know, are thinking about having a land acknowledgement. You know, it takes an act of bravery to go and take on this discussion, because again, we live in a society that's very reactive nowadays. And so a lot of people say, well, you're taking away history. Well, you know, let's look at the history. Let's look at the history that you say we're taking away. And you know, it brings on a lot more discussion that needs to happen. And I think that's why it's so important to have, because it does bring to the table the discussions that need to happen. You know, when it comes to the history of America, the history of Alaska, the history of Sitka. And so, you know, it is important to adapt. It is important to have the discussion. It's important to have those voices that may not understand or, you know, disagree with you, because that's a chance for education. Sometimes people don't want to be educated. That's fine, just as long as you know your mission is to ensure that people understand that an organization is here to promote that discussion, to promote change. And change is, you know, like a land acknowledgement, is very small. But in a bigger picture, once you have a land acknowledgement, you can add policy, you can change names, you could change a name of an island, you know. So it's really important to again, you know, be sincere, also educate yourself and be prepared for those very difficult discussions, because you know, you will be questioned, you will be you will receive opposition sometimes. And again, I come from a background, my traditional values support being open and willing to listen and to be just to be gracious. And that's you know, that's where I come from. And you know, it's really easy to get into arguments. It's really easy to take that high, you know, high intensive route of, well, you're right, I'm wrong. You know, no, it's important to stay level-headed and know what you're doing is right, is very much needed. And again, you know, I commend anyone who takes the first steps in adopting a land acknowledgement, because again, that opens the door to many other different information that people need to know. And so I support it. I thank everyone who has adopted it. And I'm looking for all the other changes that come about from a land acknowledgement.
Thanks so much, Blossom.
I just could say the same thing, basically, keep repeating everybody, but yeah, it does feel like the very first step, and a very small first step for our little nonprofit, but I encourage all other organizations to just take that step and have that discussion and acknowledge where we're starting out. And like Blossom says, you know, sometimes you don't even need it initially to have it be this big thing, but just, you know, for yourself of where you are in activities that you go to or meetings that you go to. But yeah, I think as far as my experience, I'd encourage other nonprofits to, or organizations that are having, you know, board meetings and whatever, have that discussion, because I think it's going to be, from my experience, it's a very kind of straightforward first step that I'm looking forward to seeing what else we can open up to it. But very, like, no resistance from our organization. So it was very accepted, and really, like, yeah, it's about time. Like, why haven't we always done this? So yeah.
Thanks, Michelle. Lloyd, bring us home.
Well, what I go back to is why. If you're considering this, I would encourage you to ask why you're doing it, then know why you're doing it, and say why you're doing it. I think we need to approach it from a point of being humble. And my concern sometimes with the land acknowledgements is that, you know, oh, this is the cool thing to do right now. And that's why I say, you know, ask yourself why you're doing it. And hopefully part of that is that you realize that it's a first step in a process of healing, reconciliation, honoring each other, and creating you know, a community of people that are respectful, that are honoring, and all that. So again, the basic thing is just understanding why you're going to do a land acknowledgement in the first place. Educate yourself about land acknowledgements, get as many different opinions as you can. One of a very simple land acknowledgement that I've used with the coalition is to simply have people shut their eyes and think about this place that we call home, and identify one thing that you're thankful for about this place we call Sitka now. And a great way of honoring so, and acknowledging. So yeah.
All right. Well, I, from my heart, really want to say thank you to the 5 panel members. I think we absolutely, the 5 of you were just the 5 that we needed to have for this. Everybody brought their own little different perspective and experience, and it made for a really rich learning experience for me. And I know other people who will watch this will have similar experiences. So I want to thank the panelists for sharing your thoughts, sharing your perspectives. This is an important topic. And our hope, I think I can speak, I know I can speak on behalf of the panel here, is that our hope is that something that was said tonight will stimulate discussion that goes beyond just yourself. It'll challenge any listener or viewer, and challenge you in a way that you'll continue this important work of decolonization in our workplace and our communities. And so again, thank you all for your time. You gave up 2 hours of your evening that you could have been doing other things, but know that you made a difference. And from my heart, thank you very much.